Ledger wallets have been the go-to for as long as I can remember. I mean, even my first hardware wallet was the Ledger Nano X, and I really liked it because it was easy to use and I thought it was secure. But when concerns about a potential backdoor and spyware in Ledger Live and claims that Ledger is not open source started to surface, I just stopped using my Nano X. Like many of you, these concerns made me question whether I could trust Ledger, and this was also around the time when I started testing and reviewing hardware wallets, so I was using different brands, and I just kind of forgot about Ledger on purpose. That was until more recently when I spent the past several weeks researching, taking pages of notes, and even speaking directly with Ledger about these concerns. So in this video, my goal is to separate the facts from the FUD so that we can finally get to the truth and come to our own more informed conclusion. In my research, I found that most of the misinformation about Ledger Online today is really all Ledger's fault, and it stems directly from their poor communication when they first announced their Ledger Recover service back in May 2023, and this is now better known as the Ledger Backdoor. But before that, I feel like most of us were happy using our Ledger wallets. When Ledger first announced that they were launching a private key recovery service, it caught us all off guard because they didn't even give us a warning, they didn't warm us up to the idea, and they didn't ask for our feedback. All they did was send a tweet out that says, Ledger has a new product, Ledger Recover, that's launching soon, along with a 2.5-minute video, a pretty dry and blunt one at that, briefly explaining how Ledger Recover works. News spread quickly, and the result was mass outrage, rightfully so. I mean, one day Ledger is telling us that our private key couldn't leave the device, and then all of a sudden they're telling us that it could leave the device, and to make things even worse, they were very unapologetic about the whole thing, and to this day, this has left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Then 5 months later, after the initial announcement of the Recover service on October 24th, 2023, Ledger officially announced that the service was live, and as you could guess, the result was more backlash. So in just 5 months, Ledger went from being one of the most popular and well-respected hardware wallet companies in the world to being one of the most untrustworthy companies in crypto, and all because they created a apparent backdoor that none of their users even wanted, and all that to say, Ledger, it's your fault. But was this simply a case of bad communication, or do all Ledger hardware wallets really have a backdoor that we should be concerned about? After some research, I learned that a backdoor is a vulnerability that allows unauthorized access to a system or software. In this case, it would be our Ledger hardware wallets, and it's used to bypass normal security measures. So if Ledger Recover allows Ledger or anyone else to access our wallets without the user's permission, then it would definitely be considered a backdoor. To determine if Ledger Recover is a backdoor, we really have to understand how Ledger Recover works in regard to our wallet security. What makes Ledger and many other hardware wallets secure is the secure element chip, also known as a smart card, and everything is stored on this card, our private key, our seed phrase, and it's also responsible for signing and approving transactions using our private key. These smart cards allow you to be your own bank because you can keep your own secret, and in the case of our hardware wallets, that secret is our private key. So you can see where the confusion comes from because Ledger literally created a service that can recover our private key in case we forget it. But Ledger Recover is not a backdoor. If you don't opt in to use Ledger Recover, which is a paid subscription by the way, then you remain in sole control of your private key and your seed phrase, and no one, including Ledger, has access to your keys. However, if you do opt into Ledger Recover, then the question of who has access to your private key becomes more relevant. To even opt into Ledger Recover, you kind of have to jump through a lot of hoops. You have to create an account and go through an ID verification process in Ledger Live, and then after entering your PIN on your device, you have to approve the Ledger Recover process using your device, similar to how you approve a transaction before confirming it on the blockchain. Once you agree to all this and then confirm it on your device, your wallet splits your private key into 3 different pieces called shards, and these shards are then sent to 3 different backup providers that use a secure connection protected by something called a hardware security module. These HSMs are like vaults for crypto keys, and they're also used in other industries like banking and healthcare to protect sensitive data. But here's the thing, even if someone got a hold of one of these shards, maybe it was leaked somehow, they wouldn't be able to decrypt it because it's encrypted twice, and even if they were able to decrypt it, they would only have 1 shard out of the 3 shards, so they wouldn't be able to do anything with it. To recover your wallet securely connects to each backup provider, verifies everything, and receives the encrypted shards. These shards are then decrypted and combined to restore your private key on the secure element in your device without ever exposing your keys outside of the hardware wallet. All that said, Ledger Recover is not meant for the hardcore, self-sovereign crypto enthusiasts like us. We know what we're doing and we know what we want, and it is not Ledger Recover. Who it is for, though, is someone who wants to get into crypto and not be fully responsible for recovering their assets in case of an emergency. So for those of us who want to keep our private key private, we simply don't use Ledger Recover. And because Ledger Recover does not bypass our wallet security, it's not a backdoor. But Ledger Recover is just one reason why some people have lost trust in Ledger. Another big concern is how they collect users' data and how they use that data. More specifically, what would happen if the government subpoenaed someone and requested that data. And it's true, Ledger does track a lot of metrics. A quick look at their privacy policy page and you'll notice they keep some of your personal information for up to 3 months in their active database if you buy something from them. And then they also store for up to 10 years in their archive data for accounting purposes. But this is true for really any business, not just Ledger. They all store your data for some period of time for legal and accounting reasons. And this is also true for other hardware wallet companies like Trezor, Tangem, Keystone, and OneKey to name a few. But aside from the website, Ledger Live also tracks a lot of things like usage data, technical data, anonymized statistics, and Ledger says that this data helps to continually improve the app and troubleshoot any potential issues. That said, Ledger Live doesn't automatically start collecting user data used to improve or personalize your experience without your permission. On the other hand, they do automatically track data needed for debugging. But the good news is that you can disable all tracking in the Ledger Live settings, so any data privacy concerns you have are manageable, and that's what's important. Of course, I had to interrogate Ledger about what they would do if the government did come knocking on their door requesting user information, more specifically information pertaining to our wallet security, such as our private key or seed phrase, and their answer was simple. They can't do it because they don't have anything to give them. But how can we be sure of any of this? We can't just take Ledger's word for it. Well, that's where open source code comes into play. The more open source something is, the more we know about how it works. The only thing is, Ledger is not 100% open source. So everything in your Ledger wallet is powered by the secure element chip that I mentioned earlier. And these smart chips have been hardened, meaning they've been made more secure over tens of years since 1978. And they're used in literally dozens of billions of applications, including our bank cards and electronic passports. And Ledger's agreement with ST Microelectronics, the one who makes these chips, legally prevents them from exposing the low-level code that talks to the hardware blocks of the secure element. Not only that, but chip manufacturers like ST Microelectronics and Infineon have invested billions of dollars over the last several decades to build up their intellectual property and create something so secure that we can use it in various applications worldwide. So not only do they want to keep their chip secure for obvious reasons, but they don't want to lose their competitive advantage. They've spent a lot of time developing these chips. So that's exactly why hardware wallet manufacturers like Ledger and any other hardware wallet company that uses an EAL certified chip is not able to open source the code relating to the secure element. So the question now is, would you rather have a chip that's been secured and hardened over decades and billions of uses, even if that means you can't review the small amount of code that talks directly to the chip, or would you rather use a less secure chip? Because some hardware wallets actually do have open source chips, or some of them just claim they do when they really don't. But either way, the ones that are truly open source are generally considered less secure chips compared to something that is EAL certified. But that doesn't mean Ledger isn't at least open to the idea of creating an open source secure element chip. But for now, they've stated that this presents several unresolved challenges. So maybe one day we will see an open source secure element chip from Ledger. Until that though, a lot of people don't realize that Ledger is already 95% open source, and this includes Ledger Live, which is the app for managing your Ledger wallet, the Wallet API, which is the interface that allows developers to interact with Ledger Live, the Secure SDK, which is a software development kit that includes cryptographic libraries and documentation for building apps, the Embedded Applications, which is a software running on Ledger devices that handles specific functions and interactions, the OS Command Dispatcher, which is a component managing the communication between the Ledger's operating system and its apps, and the Ledger Recover implementation entry points, which is code sections showing how Ledger Recover works. So sure, Ledger isn't completely open source, but they're pretty damn close, so we can at least be sure that the components that are closed source have been proven secured in billions of applications around the world, including other hardware wallets like Tangem, Ngrave, SafePal, who also used closed source secure element chips. As for wallets that don't use an EAL certified chip such as a Keystone or Bitbox or Cold Card, they do remain 100% open source, but just know that the chips used in these devices are not going to be secure as an EAL certified chip, which undergoes rigorous testing by security experts, and that's how they get their EAL certification. Despite all this juicy information about Ledger and their products being publicly available online to learn more about, a lot of people still don't trust using a Ledger hardware wallet, and I get it. I literally stopped recommending Ledger for over a year. It's only recently that I started recommending them again. For the longest time, I just thought of Ledger as the wallet with a backdoor. I mean, that's what I read on Twitter and in Reddit threads, but I didn't do the level of research that I've committed myself to over these past several weeks. And I also didn't really listen to Ledger's side of the story. And don't get me wrong, by no means am I an expert. I don't consider myself an expert. I might know more than some people, but there are definitely other people who know more than me. But for the most part, all the people blabbering on Twitter and on Reddit don't really know what they're talking about because they haven't done the research. So my aim as a hardware wallet reviewer is to do my own research, listen to both sides of the story, and test these products for myself, and then share my experience and what I learn with you. There's a big difference between reality and what people claim to know online, but if you dig deep enough and educate yourself, like we should be doing, especially in a space as complicated as crypto, then you can find the truth, but it does take a lot of time and it's a lot of work. That said, it's a shame what's happened to Ledger over the last year. They effectively hurt their brand, and it all stemmed, in my opinion, from their terrible communication and unapologetic behavior. And being the biggest and most popular and most respected hardware wallet company definitely has its perks, but as we found out, there are definitely some cons to it as well because they're going to be the most heavily criticized, rightfully so. But when I look at the facts, it's pretty easy to separate it all from the FUD because all of this information is publicly available for us to learn about and research. Of course, I do hope that Ledger learned their lesson about being poor communicators, but with a little research, we can confirm that Ledger Recover is not a backdoor. Ledger Live isn't spyware. They don't have anything to give the government, even if they wanted to, and their wallets are 95% open source, which is the equivalent of other popular brands who close source the exact same thing. When I decided to give Ledger products another shot, I made sure I had the answers to all these questions, to all these concerns, because at the end of the day, I'm literally just a consumer like you. I want to use a device that's going to secure my crypto. I don't want to use something that I think is going to get hacked or compromised. More than that, I'm big on user friendliness and just cool and convenient tech, especially when it comes to hardware wallets. So when Ledger launched the Stax and then now the Flex, I was just thinking like, damn, I wish I could try those wallets, but I was still misinformed and I wasn't willing to test them out. All that to say, I can't force you to trust Ledger, and that's not my goal with this video. My goal is to encourage you to do your own research and think for yourself and go beyond just Twitter and Reddit where there is a lot of noise. Not that those aren't good resources to look at, but go beyond that and do more in-depth research so that you can come to a more informed conclusion. I mean, there's countless articles online. Ledger even has their own podcast where they literally talk about all this stuff and answer really all the questions that the community has. And a lot of people just aren't willing, or they don't have the patience to sit through one of these podcasts because they're pretty dry and honestly pretty boring, but that's where a lot of this truthful information is going to be if you are really looking for the truth. At the end of the day, I'm choosing to use Ledger hardware wallets again. Again, I'm a consumer just like you. I wouldn't use their wallets if I didn't think it was secure enough to hold my crypto. I also just really like their products. I think they're pretty dang cool, and they have proven their security where security matters, which is in the real world. Also, their wallets have never been hacked that I'm aware of, and any claims of hacks are the result of a user error, connecting your hardware wallet to a malicious website and then approving the scammer to basically take your funds. This can happen on literally any hardware wallet. There's not one single hardware wallet on the market that is not susceptible to connecting it and interacting with a malicious application. So that is usually a user error. It's not a device security issue. All that said, I will be talking more about Ledger and reviewing their products, and you can find all of that on my Ledger wallet playlist right here. I'll see you over there. Peace out.